take our GST, right? Our GST is designed to harm producers. Our GST basically kills producing states and helps consumer states. So there are fundamental things. You design a GST that kills off all your small and medium industry. Then afterwards you're saying, okay, but why are we not having any jobs? Right? So there are political actions that you take, things that you value, things that you protect, that allow this to happen.
Thank you. Very helpful. Very interesting as well. Can we switch?
I'll give you an example that really struck me just a couple of weeks back. I went to Germany, and I'm very interested in drones. So I told them, listen, I want to see, your cutting edge drone manufacturers. And so they were like, yeah. And so we went to see a cutting edge drone manufacturer. Did a fantastic presentation. They're operating in Ukraine. And then after their presentation, I said to them, can I ask you a question? I'm very impressed by what you're doing. And they're like, yes. I said, what percentage of your motors and what percentage of your batteries come from China? Pin drop silence. Right? Now, I was thinking, well, why not India? Why can't the answer to that question be India? Right? And you can see it. You can see, for example, I went to BMW. BMW is essentially drowning because they cannot take on they cannot even conceptually understand the transition that is taking place to circular motion. And I really don't expect them to be able to challenge the Chinese. But I'm very confident that aligned properly, an Indian company can take on the Chinese. I have no doubt about it. But for that, we got to start, we got to start killing some lies that we tell ourselves. If we don't stop lying to ourselves, it's not going to happen. People don't like that. People don't like it, but it's the truth.
Thank you. That was very, very helpful, and I fully like the simplicity that you talked about, right? Which is battery power, a computer, a camera, and then the circular motion. How you tie it all
father,
together.
I remember, I was a kid, so you have to understand where I'm coming from. I was 12, not even. I was 12 years old, and one day my father said, "Listen, Rahul, there's a presentation you have to come to." I didn't even know what a presentation was. I think, what is a presentation? And I sat, I was bored out of my brains. And I sat for 3 hours watching a presentation on this is 1983. On watching how the computer can transform India. And I was like, get me out of the room, because I just didn't understand what was going on. Right? Sometime later, my father would keep forcing me to use a computer. Those days, I don't know how many of you use those computers. They're practically, unless you were they were like that, and there was no graphic interface. It was MS-DOS, unusable for a person who doesn't fundamentally understand them. And then one day, I went to his office, and I just said, "Papa, what is this?" And I still remember he took a piece of paper and he drew a 2 by 2. I didn't know what a 2 by 2 was, 2 by 2 matrix. I didn't know what that was. And the 2 by 2 was high capital, low capital, high skill, low skill. And then he said, you see this box? And I was like, yes. He says, we're going to dominate this box. He says, these are his words. He says, nothing can stop India from dominating this box. Maybe this other boxes we are not going to dominate, but this box is going to dominate. I'll tell you another story. Sam Pitroda will tell you this. The head of General Electric came to India. And my father had a chat with him about building software in India. And he went out of the room and said, the man is crazy. He said, the man is crazy. How can we build software in India? But that is what having a vision is. That's what it means. If everybody is saying, yeah, you're making perfect sense, it's all right. No, there's no vision there. A vision by definition has to look crazy because other people can't see it. And so that's when you're asking me, what do I expect Indian people to do? I expect them to push back when they're told stuff that is not true, is not real. Right? I expect them to say, no, this is my idea. It looks crazy to like all these other people, but I'm doing it. And then you'll find, suddenly all those people are saying, that's a great idea. Mr. Vajpayee gave a speech in Parliament saying, Rajiv Gandhi is going to destroy the Indian economy. Computer will take away all our jobs. He then gave a speech 15 years later on how great the computer was. So that's what I expect from Indian people. You're seeing that there's a complete transformation taking place. It's an exciting thing. You're the people who can pull it off. But you got to be able to see what actually is happening.
Very interesting. By the way, I worked for GE as well, General Electric as well. I was a CIO there. And so I know the story about Jack Welch coming in and setting it up in Bangalore. And a large portion of the IPs that GE has today comes from Bangalore.
Right.
So, of course, fully agree with that.
So we have to value what we have. I keep saying it, we are sitting on the most valuable resource on the planet. If you came 100 years ago to India, right, we didn't have this resource. The connectivity was not there for this resource. Everybody used to say, population is the problem. Well, that's quite interesting because our population is what has given us data, right? This conversation is data. Who owns this conversation? Who owns this conversation?
The cloud.
No. This conversation cannot be transmitted without YouTube. So YouTube owns this conversation. So we have to be able to see that. Who owns our data? How are we going to strategically use our data? That's really the question. You're engineers, you're technical people. Can you run a petrol engine without petrol? Is it possible? No. Answer? No. Can you run AI without data? Is it possible? So, we keep talking about AI, but we have the data. Can anyone build AI without large-scale data? Not possible. Who has the biggest, largest data pile in the world? And I'm not just talking conversations, Uber drives. I'm talking genetic information. I'm talking medical information. Do you realize the value of the data of our medical information, of our genetic information? Entire medicine of the future is going to be built on it. So those are the hard questions. We have an AI summit. We don't have a data summit. Nobody is saying, listen, it's literally like Saudi Arabia turning around and having a summit on the petrol engine. It's like that. And then nobody in Saudi Arabia is saying, listen guys, we got the biggest oil reserves in the world. Please understand what has happened. The US deal that has been signed by the Indian government is essentially handing over our data to the United States. Nobody said, except me, nobody said a word. It's mind-blowing. You imagine if you went to, Russia, and Russia handed over their entire oil supply to the United States, what would happen? People were shouting and screaming. Not a peep in India.
I like the focus on data, being a CIO.
Of course.
Thank you. I think Srikumar is here, the GTech. Yeah.
You agree with me? Yeah.
Very good morning, Rahulji. Welcome to Trivandrum. I just wanted to touch upon the topic of data right now with AI, with innovations, with technology, the buzzwords now. How do we in India balance ourselves from government, from policies, from restrictions, from regulations, and from all sorts of governance? How do we regulate and how do we balance between the innovations that are happening in technology to the data protection and citizens' digital rights? Now, that's an area where data pilferage, data is going to be very important. Data is the most powerful resource in the world. So, how do we balance between the innovations that are happening?
That is the. You said, I'm a politician. That's one of the central questions that the politics of India should be discussing. That this is our biggest resource. How are we going to utilize it? What is its nature? Who has access to it? At what cost do they have access to it? These are the questions actually the political system should be discussing. Not whether, what we should eat and what we should drink and whether cow urine is good for you. Yeah. Right? So it is actually it's a democratic exercise. It's a listening exercise. Because really nobody has the answer. If I tell you, listen, this is how you should use the data, that's nonsense. But it is a conversation. It's a conversation with our businesses, with our people, with the multinationals of the world, with the Americans. It's a conversation. Right? And it is the most powerful conversation India can have. I mean, if in that deal, India turned around and said, listen, this is all fine, but our data is the most valuable data in the world, I can guarantee you there'd be no taxes on agriculture. There'd be no taxes on small and medium business. There'd be none of that. You have to, when you're negotiating, and you all are negotiators, you got to know what you got. If suddenly Saudi Arabia goes and negotiates and has forgotten that it has oil, what the hell are they doing? Right? So you first, before you go into a negotiation, you got to say, okay, what do we have? I can tell you straight away, we have brilliant people, more than anybody else. We have huge diversity, so we can understand many different things from many different angles. We have the largest pile of data on this planet. We have the best engineering talent. We have the best medical talent. Kerala produces the best nurses. Now come and negotiate with me. Don't come and negotiate with me without having a clear understanding of what I got on my side. That's how it should be done.